Well, let's speak now to rap musician DJ Dodge, who's here with me now. DJ Dodge, why do rappers make music about gangs, about violence, about guns?
Well, the first thing is, original rap music is always autobiographical about your life, you know, the lives they're living, which obviously comes from America first. And it's almost like the UK, we're quite behind what's gone on for years in America as far as ghettos and violence and deprivation in poor areas, and basically the music is born out of that. It's a cry originally.
So what you're saying is the music reflects people's lives.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
at the same time, doesn't it create the problem as well?
Obviously, as it's become more popular over the years, it's become a style almost. So therefore, you get, obviously, you could call it copycats. You know, in the game we call them studio gangsters. They're not really living that life, but they see it as being fashionable, and that makes it more popular. But obviously, if there were no lives, being lived in this way, there wouldn't be no music in the first place. There wouldn't be no violent music if there weren't. The violence is there first, the music follows.
But you get this terrible vicious circle then, don't you?
You definitely do, yeah.
And what kind of role models are these people to young teenagers?
Well, the problem is, like I've said before, there aren't enough positive role models doing in other areas. So obviously if you see, somebody doing really well, first and foremost, you're inspired by what they do to do well. And that's part of the problem. Like I said, if we create more positive role models in other areas, then they wouldn't have to inspire to rappers or soccer stars or
Though some rappers would say, P Diddy, Jay-Z, 50 Cent would say, look at us, we're successful businessmen. That's a great role model for a teenager.
Well, that's what they are saying, but that's part of the problem. How they became very successful. Obviously they had very dodgy beginnings, which fair enough, they managed to turn it around, but we need to go to the beginning, the grassroots level, and show kids there's other ways.
So how do you create more positive role models? How do you say, now look at this barrister, he's a fine young man. How do you make that popular to kids on the streets in gangs?
Well, you need to get them early for one. By the time they're 15, if they're in a gang and they're holding a gun by the time they're 15, they're pretty much gone. It's pretty late for them.
So if it starts earlier, it starts in the home, doesn't it?
And
isn't that another problem? A lot of fathers are absent.
Yeah, it starts from cuddles when you're, you know how it is, a baby, that's when it begins. And obviously we need to get back to why the families are breaking down. Economical reasons are causing families to break down, especially black families, obviously, and poor families. I'm sure you know that financially poor families probably have a lot less chance of survival than families who are, have some economical structure within the relationship. So we need to start educating people, get some finances going on basically where it's needed. Like Swissy said, youth centres, places for youngsters to go so that they're not walking around the streets feeling hopeless and getting into trouble kind of thing.
And we've talked a lot about music as well,
Yeah.
but it's not the only reason people join gangs, for example, isn't it? A lot of the time,
Not at
young
all.
people join gangs because they're too frightened
Not
not
at all.
to.
If it wasn't music, it would be something else. Let's not get it twisted. It's definitely not just music. Music is just all youngsters from all avenues of life are into music big time when you're 21, 22, 18, whatever. So it's not just music, and obviously we have to look at all the different pictures, that society pushes down poor families. Families don't have much money, their throats, the media output, which is all, negative in general, not just music, see?
Is there a feeling that these young black kids feel persecuted? They feel that it's either perceived or actual racial discrimination?
Well, probably some of that, but also, like people have said, the disconnection between from their roots and their culture back home, which obviously I'm first generation West Indian, where a lot of these kids are second generation, so their parents are British adults, and there's a massive disconnection there, because obviously back home, there was no money and there wasn't all these very nice things, but the discipline was always there, and they don't have the same kind of gang culture and trouble that the kids here have.
So the solutions that you map out are sort of long-term ones.
Very long-term, yeah. We're talking like a generation.
Families.
We're talking about a whole generation and almost like grabbing the next generation and getting it right.
Is there anything we can do in the short term? I mean, we have got tougher sentences for knife crime.
Obviously, yeah.
For gun crime as well,
yeah.
Potentially. Would that make a difference to people caring gangs?
Not at this point, no, because of, when you're talking about desperation, it's almost like the kids are desperate. It's like prison is not a problem. They're that hardened, they're that desensitized to, you know, the troubles out there. They're going to do what they, because it's almost like survival. You know, if you're trying to survive, you don't care if you get shot.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the fact that it's survival. For many of these youngsters, their idea of success is moving up the ladder within a gang, isn't it?
Well, it's not actually, believe it or not, because of obviously what it is okay, if you're missing a family structure and your parents and your background isn't there, it's love you're craving more than anything.
So that's what they get from that
That's
group
exactly,
culture.
because it's your people's, you know, it's like being part of something. So imagine if you took away the gang, but you gave that person a great education, you put them in Sky News, for example, and, you know, it's all smiles and hi John every time he comes into work. He's got love. He's somebody. So it's the same thing in essence, you see what I mean?
So in order to achieve your long-term goals,
Yeah.
how would you set about doing it?
Well, you know, for the kids that are out there, obviously massive investment, you know, because money can help in these situations. Build more youth centres,
Okay,
you know.
I've asked you a big question, but I have to cut you short.
Yeah,
DJ
fine.
Dodge, thank you for that. We're crossing now to Warwickshire Police for a news conference about the shot biker Jerry Tobin. Police have made arrests this morning. Let's listen in.
Thank you, first of all, for attending this briefing at short notice. I know that you haven't had much time to prepare for this, so I do appreciate you coming.